I'm sitting here in the tour bus in Munich with Tygers of Pan Tang founder Weir. It's a really pleasure for me.
Marty, RockWorld, everybody, hi, how are you? It's a pleasure to be talking to you, and great to be in Munich.
Yeah, awesome. WAP. Let's start.
Okay.
First of all, please tell us something about the new album. I think it's the 29th album. Am I correct? Or
29th, crikey! If you take in all the bonus albums and the maybe, I don't know, studio album wise, I think it's number 12. But there's been lots and lots of albums released in various shapes and forms with different songs on and things like that. What can I tell you about the new album? It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, listen, what else am I going to say? It is a very proud moment for us all. This, crikey, how can I answer that question in such a short time? It's really when we set out to record it last January, so that's January 2016. When it came to, we record very quickly, and we recorded the whole album in about 9 days, I think. But that's just, we've always worked fast.
You did it live? Played it live?
No, not live. But we were very well rehearsed.
Okay.
So we knew the songs.
Yes.
We knew how to lay them down. We had a great engineer, a young lad called Mark Broughton, who was working with Andy Taylor from Duran Duran, of Duran Duran fame, I should say. Andy lives in. He's a friend of mine. There's history to that as well, because Andy and I. Back in the day, back in 78, something like that, we both lived in a small town called Whitley Bay, and he lived about 2 miles away from me.
Yeah.
Even although we didn't know each other until his band, Fast Breeder, opened up for my band, Trick, which was the band I was in before the Tygers, at a seaside venue, and we met there, and of course we both didn't know our fate, in which path it was going to take us. Andy's was slightly more successful than mine. I think he has a few more dollars than I do, but there you go. So Andy was busy recording an album. Mark was working on it and engineering it, so I asked Andy whether we could borrow him for 3 weeks, and Andy said, yeah, no problem at all. And by the way, there's this and this in the studio you can borrow if you want to use that as well. So he said, you feel free to use any of our gear, like that, which was fantastic. And we went to mix it, and I was going to mix it with Mark, and what happened was it wasn't how I had the vision for it, and I said to the boys,
In what way?
It was good, but it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't.
You had a strong vision from the sound and the balance of the sound.
The sound, because we recorded it, and all the tracks were fine. Gav, our bass player, is a great arranger, so the songs were all in the right order.
Yeah.
But it was just when we were mixing it and we were playing it back, it didn't sizzle, it didn't crackle, it didn't really light my eyes up. So I talked to our manager, Tom, and I said to Tom, this is kind of what's happening and what's going on. And Tom said, okay, let me talk to Michael at the record company. So our manager talked to our record company. They had a conversation, and Michael Anderson, the CEO of Target Records, said, I've got a fella who's signed to me in a band, but he has a really, really good studio, Melody Studios in Copenhagen. Why don't you let him mix it? Mm-hmm. So we sent everything across to him, and the fellow in question is called Søren Andersen, who is I don't want anybody to discover him, because everybody will use him because he's so good. That's being a bit mean, really. He's the guitar player in the Glenn Hughes band. Yep. He's been in the Dead Daisies. He's done loads of things. He's out on tour at the moment with Mike Tramp. It's difficult to get a hold of the lad. And we sent him across, say, all the stuff. for what he did, he mixed the album blind with no preconceptions of how it should sound.
From his feelings.
Just from his feelings.
Okay.
I rang him probably every day. He probably got sick of me for about a month, and we had conversations. I gave him little hints of kind of things like that, feeding back from the band. The band was saying, "Oh, tell him this, can we do this with it, can whatever." But from Søren's, if you think about it, from Søren's point of view, he got he got the recording stems, loaded them into his mainframe of his his recording computer. So up would come 60 tracks. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle with 60 pieces. So he's got to put all the pieces in the right places, because he didn't know, when a certain backing track comes along, a certain backing vocal, yes, or a guitar solo, he didn't know whether that was a feature or whether it was just there in the background. So he had to guess that and had to, or second guess that, I should say, and had to order it all and organize it all.
So it's just more than a mixer. It's just a little bit a producer.
He certainly did, and he did a little bit of programming, because we wanted a couple of bits on the front of songs. And he did such a good job. The first track he sent for us to listen to was Blood Red Sky, and we all looked at each other and went, "Blimey neck, if the rest of the album's going to be like this," we all couldn't wait until another mix came into the Dropbox, and we were busy downloading it and all talking to each other, going, "God, this is good." He really, really did an amazing job, and he's captured the big Tiger sound that I always wanted.
Why is the album untitled?
We did have titles for the album. We sat and we talked about titles for the album, and in the end we thought, do you know what? Why do we have to give it a title? Let's self-title it. It's Mickey Crystal's first album with us. He's done recording with us before, of course, on EPs and things, but it's his first major album. The band is kind of, although Mick's been with us nearly 4 years now, and he's the new boy, the band is kind of taken on a new, I don't know, a new being, a new. The Tiger Beast it has grown up, and it's extremely well fed and powerful at the moment, and we've never been happier, really. It's just happening.
This is cool, if you can say that about after so many years.
Absolutely, no, and no disrespect to any of the members that have been in the Tigers. I started it. I was there, in '78, putting it all together. And no disrespect to anybody, because everybody has played a part in Tigers history. Yeah. And do you know what? Lots of journalists, and you're not going to say this. Lots of journalists say, particularly when they come and do a review, in classic rock or in whatever rock magazine, they say, and this is not just me, but they'll say, Mick Box, only original member, of Uriah Heep. They'll say Rob Weir, only original member of. Yeah. But for all the big bands, are Deep Purple all the original members? Why don't they say David Coverdale, only original member? And might say, but they never do. Yeah. They seem to pick on the I don't know what it is. And journalists have got to get this out of their head. The band is what it is at the moment. It's not. If you wanted to see the band in 1981, you should have been there in 1981 and comment on that. Yeah. But now, the beast has evolved. It's grown. It's matured, and it is what it is. And it's huge and it's great. So enjoy it for what it is. If you happen not to like what the Tigers are doing, because
you can hear the old records.
You can put the old records on. And indeed, with the Sessions series, the Wildcat Sessions, Spellbound Sessions and Crazy Night Sessions, we've re-recorded our sort of 5 or 6 favourite tracks and put them on an EP. So it's the best of both worlds. You can still hear the old tracks, but recorded 30 years later with 30 years more technology to make them sound a little bit better. It's like flowers in a vase. Yes, they're nice. Yes, but the flowers drink the water.
I think
so. Put fresh water in.
You have always to develop, because life is development.
Of course. Who wants to stay the same?
So as you said before, you went to the studio well rehearsed. So that means you have composed the songs before.
Yeah.
So what is your strategy in writing songs? Do you first start with the lyrics and the music?
The songs start with the music. Very much so. The songs always start with the music.
Like in the old days, you jam together, or somebody comes with an idea?
Somebody comes with an idea. I'll have a guitar riff. Mick will have a guitar riff. Sometimes Craig will have something in his head, and he'll sing it, and we'll try and. And you go, yeah, I like that, or no, I don't like that. So we all write. Somebody has to come up with an idea for you to develop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, Mick would come in with the chorus to Only the Brave, and we go, right, well, that's great. That's really Tygers. We like that. So we all sit down and we develop it. And then Craig, our drummer, and Jacopo Melli, our fantastic Italian stallion singer, will share between them. Who they might write two verses of words each. There's no hard and fast rule. It's just whatever's best for the band.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not all about that. It might have been back in the day, when we were all young and daft and had big egos and had lots to prove and lots of testosterone and all that kind of stuff. But now it's very much. Why have one person write a song when you can have 5 people write a song and get 5 ideas rather than just one idea? There's the song, lads. That's it. Yeah. That's how we're recording it.
Right.
Yeah, and then but 5 people go, okay, that's a song, but why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? And you go, yeah, that's what it needed.
If this is a democratic process,
very much so.
Then it is okay.
Very much so. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like in a relationship,
Yeah.
It's the same.
There's no such thing. If you're in a relationship with a woman, there's no such thing as democratic. That's absolute rubbish. They tell you what to do, and you shut up and do it. Otherwise, your life is hell.
That's good. Well,
that's what my wife tells me anyway.
Let's go a little bit deeper into the close to 40 years history of the Tygers of Pan Tang.
Really, 40? Oh my God.
I'm giving you now about 8 hints or points of references.
Okay.
And it can be an album title or a year or just a name. And please just tell us a short, little thing. Yes. What comes into your mind?
Okay.
1978.
1978, the end of Trick, which was my first band, and the start of the Tygers.
Okay.
Very good. New wave of British heavy metal.
Jeff Barton, Sounds newspaper, 1979. He wrote about. We had the original wave, the old wave of heavy metal, which would be Black Sabbath and Judas Priest and Deep Purple and Uriah Heep. And around 78. 78, 79, there were new bands, there were new boys on the block, there were new bands. There was Iron Maiden, there was Def Leppard, there was so you've got Iron Maiden in London, you've got Def Leppard in Sheffield, you've got Saxon in Barnsley, and you've got the Tygers in Newcastle. And for me, and most journalists agree, I think we were like the first 4 bands to form this new wave of British heavy metal movement. Yes, there were lots of other bands, but we were the ones that were signed first. We were the ones that had the singles out first, and it's Jeff was obviously out working for Sounds music newspaper and was out looking at the bands and wrote a big double-page article, and he gave it a title, he gave it a home. He said these new bands of British heavy metal, but it's a new wave, it's a new start, it's a new whatever the word is, and he came up with wave. So that's how we got the new wave of British heavy metal.
Awesome.
Next, John Sykes.
John Sykes was playing in a band called Street Fighter in Blackpool on the west side of northern Britain. We advertised for a guitar player at the end of the recording of Wildcat, before we were going to do our Wildcat headline shows in September of '80, and it was our management felt, along with our agency, International Talent Booking in Wardour Street in London, they felt that the bands that were creating the biggest noise were bands that had two guitar players rather than one guitar player. So it was, we talked about it, and they said, well, we'll get if we get another guitar player in, it'll give a double attack to the sound. When one guitar player is playing lead, the other one's can be playing rhythm, so the sound doesn't drop out. And I said, yeah, fine, I haven't got a problem with that. So we advertised. We auditioned about 80 guitar players, I think, at Tower Bridge Studios, just on across Westminster Bridge. I remember it very well. And the two guitar players that were in the frame were John Sykes and Steve Mann. And John obviously John got the job, he got the deal, and John, I touched on his sort of his background, where he came from. He was in a band called Street Fighter, who were a half original, half kind of Thin Lizzy tribute band, and the bass player who sang was none other than my very good friend Merv Goldsworthy from FM.
Yeah. That's awesome.
so it's a very small world, believe you me. It's amazing who you know, and yeah. But and there was occasion in I think in '81 when Rocky wasn't very well, and Merv rehearsed with us to come out to Europe with us. But the last minute, I think Rocky couldn't bear the thought of not coming out. So he put his he took his slippers off and put his shoes back and said, "I'm coming." So unfortunately, Merv didn't do the tour, but he was all rehearsed up.
Okay, next one, The Cage.
The Cage was very interesting. We had a pop producer. It was suggested he'd never done a rock band before. He'd worked with the Lambrettas and Alvin Stardust and all those kind of pop, and had lots of hits with them, but never done a rock band. So we were the guinea pigs, and we went into the Marquee Studios at the back of the old Marquee Club in Wardour Street, and we recorded all the backing tracks with a tremendous engineer called Phil Harding. We were using acoustic drums and electronic drums because that was the kind of what was going on at the time. Rat were doing it a bit, and we were doing it, and there's a few bands that were doing it. Worked really, really well, and the album, which was one of probably our most successful albums, commercially wise, turned out really, really well. The only thing with The Cage was, and I saw what was happening, was we didn't write an awful lot of songs for The Cage. We performed songs from outside songwriters, and that went against the grain with me, because Wildcat went in the charts at 13, Spellbound went in the charts at 18, Crazy Nights was top 50, because that's a whole other story. We haven't got time for that. And I thought, well, we can write songs, and we're getting albums, not in a rock chart, we're talking about a national British chart with David Bowie and Michael Jackson and Earth, Wind and Fire and Gloria Gaynor. Our albums right in there, our albums are in amongst all the mix. With that kind of stuff, so it was proof to the record company that we could write songs, and people were buying them, and they said, no, we want you to write, we want you to perform more songs from other people, and it really went against the grain, and so we recorded The Cage. After that, John left. Of course, John recorded 2 songs on The Cage. He recorded Danger in Paradise and Love Potion No. 9, and then he left. He had his sights on joining Ozzy, I think, which unfortunately didn't happen for him. But he didn't have a bad career, really. And he's still going. We shared a room for a year, touring around the world as guitar buddies. He's a bit younger than me, so I kind of saw myself as the older brother and sort of looked after him. But we were both a bit naughty.
Okay.
We were wild childs. Yes.
Next, Old Grey Whistle Test.
Old Grey Whistle Test. On the way to the Old Grey Whistle Test, there was a robbery. And we had nothing to do with it. We were just minding our own business going, and we didn't know there'd been a robbery. So as we were approaching the BBC studios to record it, a police car pulls up and starts to arrest our tour manager and I can't remember the other 2 members, saying there'd been a robbery, and people of our description had been fingered to you know, as the cause.
No further comment needed.
As the yes, quite as the cause. But it turned out that of course we'd had nothing to do with it, and we said we're on our way to, because they said, what are you doing? I said we're on our way to record for the Old Grey Whistle test, and the police went, yeah, right, okay. Went, no, we really are on our way to. Yeah. And when we explained everything, they said, okay, it couldn't have been you then. So yeah, off you go. Yeah. So that's
vinyls.
Pardon?
Vinyls
are wonderful things. To all your young listeners, they're huge pieces of black plastic, sometimes coloured, that you put on a thing called a turntable, and you put a sharp needle in them, and hopefully you got a great sound out of your speakers. With the addition of the internet, unfortunately, it's wiped out an awful lot of the music business, and a lot of sales. And it's the good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. You have to use the internet very much to your advantage, I think. Almost to get it back for what it's done to the music business. So if anybody's listening, please don't illegally download. I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say I don't even know. I think I'd know how to download anything. But what happens is the artist goes into the studio, pays a lot of money to record this, these ideas that they have, and then it gets released, and now somebody thinks they're doing you a huge favour by putting it up on YouTube, but everybody gets it for nothing. But the artist has still got the studio bill to pay for. That doesn't go away. What goes away is the earnings, from people putting up thinking, this is really good, I'm going to put it up and let everybody listen to it. Yeah. But it doesn't kind of work like that, and maybe people don't quite grasp this. Now, maybe they will now. I've explained it, and I can see why people do it. But please don't. If you want it, go out and buy it, and get all the lovely artwork, and get the booklet and the new album. The artwork in the booklet is something that you'll never have seen. I promise you. It's and I hope I'm setting some kind of intrigue in people's minds. When you download something, what do you actually get? There's a rhetorical question. What do you actually get?
A bad sound.
You get a sound. You pay your money. You get a sound. But what do you actually get? You get something invisible. Something that's collected in a tiny tube inside your phone, a tiny chip, inside your phone or inside your computer. You don't get anything for your money. You just get to press a button and you hear the song. For not much more money, you can have the CD booklet, the artwork, all the time and effort that the artists have put into it. Really, that's it. In our booklet, in this one, we'll have individual pages with our photographs on, but they're not photographs like you've ever seen before. And no, they're not nude. But it's something quite different. And the two boys that are sat here interviewing me at the moment know what I'm talking about. So it's up to you guys to go and investigate this.
Ambush.
Do you actually know what an ambush is?
Me not. But you will tell us.
Do you know what an ambush is, Marty? No? An ambush is somebody jumping out and going, surprising somebody, is it not? Is that what you say an ambush is? If you're waiting, would you ambush somebody?
Oh, okay.
It's not that.
It's not that.
It's not that. An ambush is a collection of tigers. So you would have a flock of sheep. Okay. You would have a pride of lions.
Yes.
You have an ambush of tigers. It's a collection of tigers.
This is what the band is. Okay.
So the album was called. I came up with that. That's my idea. That's good. So an ambush is a collection of tigers, which is why it was called that.
Last point.
Last point. Mickey Crystal.
My goodness, Mickey Crystal. He is our new.
Baby Tiger.
He is our new and uprated John Sykes. Sorry, John. Mick can play all your guitar solos and then he can play some. He is sensational, absolutely great. I stand at the back and bash a few chords out now. Mick does all the flash stuff because he's so good at it, and you'll see that tonight when you come to the show.
Next question: who were your heroes starting out to play music?
Do you know, I'm not. I'm not a great kind of hero. There's not an awful lot of guitar players really turn me on. I don't like technical. That really turns me off. I can see why people do it. But
so there was no flashpoint in your life when you saw a band and say, I want to be this guy, or I want to be that, or it brings me to make music.
A little bit, and I can probably about maybe 3 or 4 guitar players. Mick Box. I remember seeing him back in the early days of Uriah Heep, and I just liked his stage presence. He was a showman, and I like a showman more than I like technical ability, because at the end of the day, when you stand on a stage, you're entertaining people.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's visual. With a blur of notes coming off your fingerboard, it's not quite so entertaining.
Yeah.
Ted Nugent was a huge showman. I always liked Glenn Tipton. I think he's a great guitar player. I like what he did in Judas Priest. When you knew it was a Glenn Tipton guitar solo. You know, it worked really well. So that's that. I'm a bit old school. Can I say that? I'm a bit old school with guitar players. Yeah. You know, I liked Eddie Van Halen when he came along because he was doing something that nobody else was doing, and then everybody copied him. And I thought, oh, get a life. Why this lad's doing it? Leave him alone. You know, do your own thing. Yeah. You know, I always thought Eddie was quite clever. You know, with all the hammer-on stuff, which I can't do. But there you go. Do I need to do it? Probably not.
No.
But Mick can.
Last 2 questions. Please tell us a secret about yourself or the band that nobody knows. It can be a funny tour bus secret or anything else where you're not getting killed by the other guys, maybe.
Okay. A secret about me or about the band? I can't divulge any secrets about the band because there'd be lawsuits everywhere. A secret about me, I am a fully qualified jeweller. I took my jewellery exams at Northern Goldsmiths in Newcastle, and before I became a professional musician, so I worked for a jewellery firm, and I could make jewellery, I could repair jewellery, I could tell you how much your diamonds were worth. Really? I could fix watches, I did horology.
Okay. Wow. Have you ever did it afterwards or between? Or as a second bone or something, or
yeah. Well, when sort of I took a bit of a period out of the music business.
Yes.
About 85, I think. Excuse me. And with my almost forgotten talent, I opened up a jewellery shop with 2 partners.
Really?
And we traded for about 5 years, making jewellery for people who would come and say, you know, I'd like a one-off piece of jewellery made, and we would design it and we would make it in gold or silver or platinum or whatever.
If you could choose again, now,
yeah, would I do anything else?
What would you do? Musician or jewellery? With all the things you know now.
Oh, musician. Oh, yeah, musician. Do you know? Okay. Let me get that. And I use this quote, and it's my quote. It's actually in Classic Rock this month. Music is the nicest disease you can catch, but it's also the worst disease you can catch. Why is it the nicest disease? Because it gives you endless amounts of pleasure.
That's it.
Why is it the worst disease you can catch? Because you can't get rid of it. Yeah. It's with you for life.
Yeah.
And that's what I view about music.
Okay, the last one. Please, some words to the fans.
Oh my goodness, we've had the fans worldwide are tremendous, and they never keep surprising us with their loyalty, you know, and with coming out, because it's difficult to get people out of the house these days because concerts are increasingly more expensive. There are these. Let's be controversial. There are these bad bands that charge for meet and greets and all this kind of stuff. Do these bands not realise that they wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for the people, if it wasn't for the fans buying concert tickets and buying their records? At the end of the day, it's part of your job. After the show, you don't charge people more money to say hello to them. You get your arse out there, your bum out there, your behind out there, take your front with you, and you say hi to people. And that's part of rock and roll. That's part of your job.
Yeah.
You don't go and charge people another €100, another €1,000, so they can sit with you and everybody pretends that they like each other. That's bullshit, and I'm so against that.
Very good. Last word. Thank you for the interview and have a great show tonight in Munich.
Thank you very much indeed.